Okay. Good afternoon, all people in Turku. Good afternoon also all you in Tallinn and Riga. And welcome to the fourth keynote presentation in the Springboard Accelerator program. Today we have an interesting topic of talking about how to productize your ideas. So basically what you need to make business, you need a product, you need a customer. Customer is the one who pays for the fund. If you have remembered that, that's good to keep in mind. And along these topics we have today Antti Apunen to talk a little bit about how to make all kind of promises. So I give the word to you, Antti.
Thank you very much. Okay, so today we shall be discussing about the service design in its different forms. I'll be telling you some example stories of productizations that have been done, of course, discussing the key issues why in the first place we would want to productize our services. And there are certain topics already here. We're going to be discussing about the promises you are hopefully going to give your customers, why you should be giving what we call outrageous promises, really guaranteeing that your customers are going to achieve something great with you. I'm also going to be talking about dollarization, the fun you can have with the Excel sheets when you are trying to display your customers what the real benefit of using your services. And my point here is very simple. Either there is a benefit or there isn't, and you need to show it. But let's discuss that a little bit more among the other 8 topics I'm going to discuss today. I come from a small company called Ediste. Over the years, I participated in something over 300 service design projects. So probably have quite a few examples. So today, if you want to ask about specific industry branches or sorts of services that you would like to know more about, I'm happy to discuss with you during my speech. And of course, afterwards, please just interrupt me and ask whatever you want. And like maybe those of you who recognize some companies from the list see that what we do is not any branch-specific productization, meaning that I'm as happy to do insurances and banking services as I'm to do any kind of industrial services or software and so on. So the principles I'll be talking about today, they are sort of general regarding any kinds of services in any kind of industry. You probably will be productizing your services. So 2 things about how we do things. Like you will notice, there are lots of elements from the lean thinking in what I'm about to say. And what I mean by that is that we are always thinking about what is the shortest, quickest way, the quickest possible way of creating a service so that you can go to your customer and sell it. We actually do it in 1 working week. We only use 6 hours of our customers' time. It doesn't matter if we are productizing airline services or insurances. We only take 6 hours and we make the first sales pitch. Why do we do it so? Isn't it more like traditional way to go to your chambers and use 1 year or 2 years developing such a great service, and when it's ready, then start rolling it out first inside your company, then making big marketing campaigns so that your customers will know what you are doing. What is it compared with this 1 week of work, and then going to sell stuff? Well, I'm going to tell you a few examples, and I'm also going to tell you that sometimes you're going to fail. For sure, but it's better to fail fast than wait for those 2 years so that your competitors will pass you and you'll still be developing your service and the market has already been conquered before you get there. But let's start with the problem, because I always think that there needs to be a problem to be solved before there is any use to do anything. And what I think from your customer point of view, the problem is right here, and it's this. All the services that you try to compare that you find on the market in any given branch, they more or less seem the same. You are trying to choose between 2 airline companies. what does it come down to? It usually comes down to the price, because everything else is just the same. There might be small differences in what kind of food they are serving on the plane, if they are serving any, and so on. But what we are talking about is the price, and that's what's killing our development, that's what's killing our business, and that's something we need to get rid of. Very simple as that. When I go to a web page of any given company and I start searching the first signs of differentiation there, it's sometimes really hard. First thing I will see is this. Come be our company's customer. What we will offer you is something like high quality, cheap price. We can solve any problem for any customer. You know, we are good at everything. And this is exactly the other part of the problem. When it all looks the same and everybody's saying that we are doing the high quality, I'm totally confused already. What should I use when I'm trying to choose a suitable service provider? And another thing, they are all saying that they are the best that there is. There is no differentiation in there. So that's the first lesson, what we're going to discuss today. Whatever you say, don't start with saying that you are doing something which is high quality. Why? Why am I saying this? Because everyone else is saying that as well. Everybody's doing high quality. Or have you seen lately a website where there is a company saying that our quality is quite bad? It's worse than with our competitors. Well, I kind of get the point that, yeah, you have the best people and you have the best quality, so let's move on. What's the point? If your customers feel like this, you have lost the game. There is only a certain amount of attention you're going to get, and if you don't, be successful in the first few minutes of your talk, this is what's going to happen, and then it's going to be really, really hard to break that barrier down. Okay, here is a very typical example what you will see when you go to a web page. And I can tell you, I just removed the name of the company, but this is one really, really big multinational consultancy. And what are they saying? They're saying that they are offering me performance. There are the buzzwords, innovation and experience, and there are best practices. But could someone tell me what this company is doing? What are they actually doing? What kind of consultancy is it? Yeah, it's absolutely impossible. Yeah, it's business development, but what kind of business development? Are we talking about the sales or marketing? We get the general idea, but basically you could drop any problem into this equation. But my point here is that this is one of the best companies in the world doing this kind of consultancy. Why are they not saying what they are doing? Yeah, that's my point exactly. Yeah. Are these people best in best practices? What does that mean? Are they best in offering me performance in what line of business and so on? So this is basically something that we try to understand. We use a lot of energy, but there is no information in there. My question to you would be here, what are you best at? If you are the best in the whole wide world, why don't you say it here? Why do we do it like this? But there is lots of talk like this, and the worst thing is that when I see these sales pitches, there is a salesman coming to me and they start with this kind of talk. They use the 20 minutes, 30 minutes from the beginning of the meeting, telling me, about their organization and quality and blah, blah, blah. I'm totally exhausted by the 30 minutes. And actually, as we know in psychology, when you're trying to tell me something, you have 20 minutes. That's the absolute end of it. After that, it doesn't matter what you're telling me. I'm too tired to listen to you. So why don't you use the first 20 minutes telling me something that matters? Why don't you start with telling me what I can get when I'm your customer? Okay, now what's the problem when I'm a customer and I cannot differentiate between the service providers? The problem is that when there are many of them, it becomes really hard for me to choose. I'll just tell you a really neat example about this. My sister was buying sort of a house package. There are lots of companies on the market offering just about the same. You just get the package and you can just have whatever you want in there, build it yourself, have some help to do it or so. Okay, so he had like this Excel sheet and there was like plenty of features and she started listing them all. And she was thinking that, oh, I'll just put them all aside or make a comparison there, and then in the end I'll maybe give some points to each and blah, blah, blah. So in the end I'll have some mathematical equation telling what house package I should buy. So she just kept doing this, and on page 7 I saw her doing, and I asked her like, how's it going? And she said, oh yeah, well, we'll see. And a couple of weeks later she came and said that, okay, we made the decision. And I said, now please be really honest with me. Did you decide based on that Excel sheet? And my sister was a little bit embarrassed, and she said, no, I just threw it aside. I just bought the house from the nicest salesman. And I'm like, what was the worth of the Excel sheet? And she said, yeah, there was no worth, because she couldn't compare all the features that there were. Now tell me, how many features can I actually compare at any given time? What's the number I can keep in my head when I'm comparing features? Yeah, that's the right answer. So if it's 3, why would you offer any more options? It's as it happens, lots of places where you go and buy stuff nowadays, you will see, different kind of service packages and so on, and it's all based on the rule of 3. There are 3 options to choose from, because as we know, you go try to buy a car, there are lots of features, there are pages and pages of features. So what happens to people when they see all these features? Instead of buying more, they buy less. And this is a fact proven many times in psychology. When you add more options, the sales go down. The comparison is really hard work. There is one example of a research done in the US, and the research was about the doctors doing their decisions in ER. And the thing was that they have a simple sheet of paper listing all the kinds of tests for patients coming in for intensive care. Okay, there were 2 versions of the list. They were otherwise similar, but the other list had all the tests, the typical tests, checked already. So when patient comes in, you just sign the paper and all those tests will be given to the patient. And the other paper was just the same, except it didn't have anything checked. So the doctor had to mark himself, I want these tests done. So what was the difference? You would think that they are objective decision makers, it doesn't make any difference. But you guessed already, there is a huge difference. It was like they chose to give the patient 7 tests when they had to decide themselves what the tests are, and when they had the already checked list where they had to just strike over what they didn't want to have, it was like 14 tests. And the difference in money was over 1,000 euros per patient, just because of the stupid piece of paper. And you would think that, oh, doctors know what they're doing, but they were lazy, and they just said that, oh, let's do all the tests. So that's the power of suggestion. Just narrow down the options, make sure there are few, but not too many. So otherwise there will be no sales. And whenever there are too many features, this is how I feel when I'm trying to buy something from you. I don't understand, I don't have the time, I'm too tired, and what happens? I tell you that your service is too expensive and I don't buy.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Are you saying that we shouldn't have
I am saying that you should package your features. You should have, like, on the top level, not too many options to choose from. Like, I'm once again using the car sales as an example. When you see the picture on the paper, this is the car you want. There is always the small print below the picture saying that there is some extra stuff on this picture when you see it on paper. But that's what you buy in your mind. Then you go to the car dealership, and what's the first thing that happens? Well, the first thing is that the dealer wants you to drive the car. Why is that? Because once you drive the car, you start to feel like it's your own. When you touch it, that's a psychological fact once again, it starts to feel like it's yours. Okay, then you come back and say, I'll buy this car. So the dealer is happy and says, okay, I'll have this medium package for you because you said you didn't want the most expensive package because there are lots of stuff that are a little bit over the top, so let's make the medium package. And you say, yeah, wait a second, we'll make the deal, but first let's discuss about the price. You say that you want some rebate from the price. So what does the dealer do? Well, what they generally do is they say that, oh, you are one of those poor customers. Sorry, I didn't mean poor, but you just understand the value of money. So let's make your package a little bit cheaper. So we'll just drop off some features. It's the light package. That's for you. So what happens here? The people usually say that I'm not poor. Of course, I can afford the medium priced package. It seems reasonable. It's not the cheap, it's not the expensive, it's in the middle. So what happened? You actually didn't discuss at all about the price of the features. You only discussed about the price of the packages. And what happened there? The dealer made a price anchor for you. He gave you the comparison for the price. And the comparison wasn't the other brand, but the comparison was the package. So once again, you can have your car with all the features you want. If you wish, you can start, listing anything you want for the dealer and they'll make the car. But most of the sales they make by, selling you a package, maybe then there is some specific features you want. But if you start with the long list, the pizza list as we called, you start selling that here's the list, there are like 5 or 10 pages of different features, you just choose yours. What happens? Happens exactly what happened to the doctors, the same thing. People don't buy anymore the features, they're giving up, it's becoming too difficult. I'm not saying you shouldn't have features, but you should make a point what the important features really are.
That's like, what about the service industry then? Because you're talking about, the statement you said, that's what stuck in my head. When you touch something, you feel like it's your own. But when it's a service, you cannot touch it. It's a service. So how do you package a service? I mean, I know you're gonna one answer is you can add more warranty on it, you can add more customer support on it, you can make packages like that. But that, again, the question is everybody does that.
I'll get back to that in just a minute. That's why I'm here telling you those 10 things you should be doing. I'll answer in a minute. Okay, so this is what happens to the customer. They're like hedgehogs, trying to defend themselves from your sales pitches. It's just, getting uncomfortable and they're telling you, you are too expensive. Then you come home and say oh, my service is too expensive, you need to do something about the price. No, that's not the point. You have lost the game if that's what you need to say. Whenever there is a salesman saying that I need to lower the price because we are too expensive, then I'm just saying that you are selling the wrong thing. There are no market prices. We never buy anything without comparing it first to something else. That's the one thing. But there is no market price telling you that there is an absolute mathematically describable price. Or can you tell me one thing in the whole universe which has a price we don't have to argue over? Anything? Because there isn't anything that has a price that we couldn't change. And that's the point. We can always change the price, which means there is no limit to the price. I know that there are lots of thoughts going through your mind right now when I say this, but what I'm saying is that there is no maximum price for whatever you're selling. It's how you sell it and what you are actually promising your customer that makes the difference. Okay, so I promised you that there will be 10 issues I'll be discussing today about the service development. And the one thing I already kind of started with is the customer's problem. I don't care what you are selling, what I care about is that hopefully what you are selling is solving some urgent problem that the customer has. And I'm very strict about this. If there is no problem, what are you doing there? Why would the customer buy from you? I'm just saying this because lots of times I hear that isn't it a little bit rude to say that our customer has a problem? Maybe we'll talk about challenges or something softer. And I'm saying that if there is no problem, why would they move anywhere? It's the urgent problem that makes your customer decide rather sooner than later. We want to find issues that the customer wants to solve now. Not next week, not next month, not next year, but now. If there is no problem, that can be a good sign for your sales as well. You don't waste your time with the customer who doesn't have a problem. Anyone of you who have done any kind of sales over the phone or whatever, you know the kind of feeling that when you get across a customer who keeps saying that, oh, we have everything covered and it's already very high quality process we have and we don't need a problem. It's really, really hard to sell anything to a person like that because their buying window, so to say, isn't open. They are not thinking about any specific problem. And if they don't tell you what the problem is, the other thing is that they don't really know what they're buying. Once again, the consultancy example I had before. I'm just telling you that I'm selling consultancy and I'm asking you, are you buying? And you're like, I don't know, why should I buy? First, I should ask, what kind of problems do you have? And if my consultancy can solve your problem, then we can discuss what you're actually buying. And it's so much easier for you to understand what you are actually buying. If you have a place for a house, but you don't have the house, you certainly have a problem. You need a house. It's very simple to define what the actual outcome of the thing should be. It's very concrete. And the problem with the service is, like we already said here, that it's nothing tangible. You can't touch it, you can't feel it, you can't taste it, basically. So there needs to be something else that makes the service tangible. The problem always is tangible. You need more money, you need more space, you need more business. That's a problem you can actually measure. So measuring something gives your service a form, it gives you a result, gives you something to discuss about. Are you going to solve the problem? Another thing is that whenever you are promising your customer something, can you do this in 3 weeks? Yes or no? How much does it cost? Is it over 10,000 euros or less? We need concrete things to discuss about. How much does it cost to solve the problem? So first thing is find the urgent problem. If you are talking to the CEO of a company, they have a different problem than a professional buyer on the lower levels. The professional buyer, they are not discussing about the strategy. They have a goal of buying something with a cheap price. So don't go there discussing with them about the strategy. Once again, when you go to CEO, don't go to discuss with them operational issues or sort of professional buying principles. Discuss about the strategy and discuss about the CEO's problem. The most common thing, I think, the mistake we make when we are selling something, we go to the professional buyer who doesn't have the authority or any motive to buy anything else but the price. I'll just give you one example. We were productizing such a funny service as airline pilot training. And it's an interesting service in a way that all the service providers around the world are exactly the same. Why is that? Because they use the exact same simulators that come from the same plane factories as the actual planes come. Also, the factories provide them with checklists for training, and that is like something like 98% of the training contents comes from the factory. And then there is the international law for flying, which is also same for everyone. So what happened? When there is a professional buyer in an airline company, they would say that, okay, what's your price for training? We know that each training agency will send us back pilots with the required certificates. And so what's your price? And the other question was like, are there any cheap hotels around where our pilots can stay? doesn't have much to do with the airline safety, right? If the training agency is chosen by the price of the hotel around. So how do you change that? There is no way you could turn it over by going to the training manager, who is the professional buyer in an airline company. You need to go to the CEO, or you have to go to the financial director. If you go to them and tell them that you are selling pilot training services, they will say that, well, I don't care, go away, I'm not listening to you, it's nothing that I would concern myself with. So you need to change your sales pitch. You need to find the problem. What's the problem of a CEO or a financial manager in an airline company? Yeah, simple as that. The operational cost is too high and they want to make it low. They want to change something in the way how the airline works so that they could get the cost down, do some strategic changes and so on. So that's what we did with Finnair. A small company, not very big player around the world in this kind of business. But we decided that how would it look like, or we asked the question that how would it look like that instead of saying that we are selling pilot training services, what if we were the best specialists in the whole world when it comes to the flying economy? We know best how the planes are flown with the lowest cost. Could that be possible? Well, everybody said that, oh, the trainers there, that, okay, we are not any money men, you know, we are just, you know, training people and flying the planes. We don't know anything about the world of CEOs and CFOs in big companies. But we just kept asking the question, what if you knew? What is the problem? And if you could solve it, if you could actually lower the operational cost, what would happen? Well, the CEO of Finnair Flight Tech Academy said that, yeah, that's an interesting idea. Probably selling the service would be much easier. So let's do it. And they were a little bit horrified that, okay, how is it done? We simply started asking questions. What stupid things do pilots do? Obviously, they do something stupid because they are not being measured very well. This may come like a surprise to you. You would think that they have the most modern machines man could build. There is like tons of data coming from the airplanes. But the thing is that whatever the captain or the co-pilot does in the cockpit, we don't really know why they did the decisions they did. There is no system gathering the information telling that these were the parameters telling why the captain did what they did. But we created a system. We started asking questions. What happens when they are rolling on the airfield with the airplane? What kind of procedures are they using? And we soon found out, with the help of Airbus and so on, that there are certain stupidities they do, and we could give every action a value. That was the hard part. How much does it cost when you push the brake pedal in an Airbus? No one knew. But we calculated it, and we said that if someone is better calculating the value, we'll be happy to accept the knowledge and wisdom about that, but let's start with what we know. So what's the difference? Now when we go to sell the service, we go to the airline company and ask the pilots first that what do you do? What are the procedures you are doing, and how certain are you that you are doing the right thing? And as it happens, the percentage of them doing the right thing was really, really low. Like we would give them like 3 options, like would you choose from option A, B, or C, what was the right thing? And we would give them a survey like this. And as you know, if you put any one of you doing the test, you should get every 3rd answer right just by guessing. So the pilots only knew like 48% of the answers. So we knew that there is a huge potential what we can do. So once we asked the pilots, next we went to the CFO or CEO and told them what we had found. And we gave a value for our finding. For example, if you have 50 Airbuses flying every day all around the year, and there is one mistake that costs you, let's say 13 euros every time you do it. It means that every year making that mistake all the time, it will cost you 500,000 when you take a look at your whole fleet. And if there are like 20 or 50 of these actions, you can start calculating how much money it is. Which is, I just saw some numbers about one quite a big airline company where they were measuring the actual value of correcting these mistakes, and it was over 8 million euros, just like that, taking away some stupid decisions that the flight captains thought that they knew was the right thing to do. So now when we go and sell the new service, we are not selling anymore that we are just, training your pilots, but we are saying that we will give you 1% savings of your operational cost, which is a lot of money in a big airline company. And if we can prove that, you can understand that the sales position is quite different from the situation where we were selling just the same that everyone else had. So you need to change what you're selling. In this very example, actually, as you can hear, we didn't change much what becomes to the content of a pilot training, because there is the law and there are the checklists and there are the 10 million euro simulators. You can't change it just overnight, and the law says that you need to do certain things. But the way it was sold and the way the financial actions were actually measured, that was the change. That's what we needed in the sales pitch, to prove that we could actually change something in how the airline operates, and that's how it makes a lot of money. So you see the difference where the customer's problem is, and in this example, the airlines didn't know that they had a problem. Well, they sort of knew, but everyone said that it's impossible to measure. But now we made a measurement. And nowadays, companies using this kind of service, you would go into the cockpit. If you could, during the flight, you could see them using iPads and actually telling when they make decisions why they are doing what they are doing. So big difference in culture as well. Another thing is when we are selling something, usually I would like to know that how will you get in trouble if things don't work out well. And by this I mean that what kind of guarantee can you give me that whatever you are doing is going to work out. If you can give me full guarantee, you'll give me my money back and you'll pay for any inconvenience I had, it's probably a good deal. I still lose a lot of time and I might think about it twice if I didn't feel good about it, even if you promise to give me my money back. I rather want you to believe yourselves that whatever you are delivering, it's going to work. And if it's going to work, there is no problem for you to give me some kind of guarantee. And there is just this total lack of guarantees when I'm looking at where many lines of services. There simply isn't any other promise that we might show up whenever there is the scheduled start date. And of course, we will promise to send you the invoice whenever the work's done. But other than that, what are you actually promising me? Are you promising me schedule? Are you promising me monetary benefits? Whatever it is, your task is to lower my risk. As a buyer, I'm giving you all my money and I want to make sure that it's well spent. So more you can promise me, easier it becomes for me to buy. Just remember now, there is only one thing that keeps me from buying. Just one thing, and it's uncertainty. I'm uncertain if your service is right for me, if it's the right price that I'm looking for, if it's the right service for me. And if you can answer these questions before I have time to ask them, then you are basically removing my uncertainty. Of course, there is the one exception to the rule, and it's the thing that your service might not suit me at all. And then, of course, you can't sell it to me. And that's what we need to find out in the very early phase of sales. Otherwise, you are wasting your time, and otherwise, I'm wasting my time. But if it could be right for me, then it's only removing my uncertainty and making a promise and giving a guarantee. They are good tools for doing that. Okay, I spent a lot of time selling the airline example here, and the key idea in that example was that there always needs to be money somewhere. Especially when we are talking about business-to-business services, Obviously, consumer services don't always need to show actual euros or dollars, but they need to show something else, luxury or something like that. But there always needs to be measured value to the buyer. In B2B, it's very simple. I'm telling you that if you are selling to companies, it's really hard to imagine a situation where the buyer would not be interested in money. When is that a problem that you show some monetary benefits? Basically, never. So, let's start with that. Let's deal with that first, and then we can, focus on other things. It's very simple. If you can bring me a lot of money, I'm selling you something that is worth 5,000 euros. And you are asking me like, okay, so what's the benefit? If I tell you that the benefit is that I promise that you will make 2,500 euros back, you will tell me that, oh, you are insane. It doesn't make any sense. We are paying you 5,000 euros to get 2,500 euros. Get out of here. Okay, let's change the sales pitch a little bit. I'm telling you that you give me 5,000 euros and I give you 10,000 euros. So okay, is there now any reason not to buy the service anymore? If you have the money, of course. You have the absolute money there in your hand. Doesn't matter what the service is. What I'm just trying to say here is that show the money where it is. This is what the Americans have been saying for centuries, but this is what I like to repeat. Show me the money. And it's unbelievable how hard that can be. I always ask the salesman whenever I, counter one. I ask them like, where's the money? If there is an accounting firm calling me that, oh, give me all your money and we'll do your, accounting and so on. And I ask like, why? What are you gonna give me? And they're like, what do you mean? We're gonna do your accounting. I'm like, I don't care. What's the benefit? How is my company going to make more money next year if I give my accounting to you? And they're like, we have no answer. Okay. And I say that, okay, whenever you have an answer, call me again. They never do. One thing certainly is that when you are trying to build something new, there often isn't a market for that. Well, you can go out there and you try to do all the kinds of research, and there are all the kinds of price points that what kind of consumers you are looking for and so on. But the basic fact often is that no matter how many research papers you read, there just isn't an answer. So you need to find a way to go out there and try it out fast. And that's why I said in the beginning, why am I in a business of doing service designs over 1 week? It may sound a little bit ridiculous for some people. For example, when we're productizing a service which was about servicing big power plants. I'll come back to the example later. The specialist said that it's not possible to design a service for huge power plants over 1 week. And we just kept saying that, well, we're not saying that we are going to write all the manuals and everything, but what we're going to do, we are going to change the way you sell the power plant service in 1 week. Is that okay? Let's try that. And then once we have done that, let's go and try how it works out. I'll tell you later how it worked out. But whatever it is, take a small risk, go out there and fail quickly. And this is what I mean by taking the small risk. Don't put so much effort in, creating all these process descriptions and, finding out all the details and exceptions of all the kinds of service delivery situations. Go there and see if your customers will buy. Later, you can worry about how you're going to do it. But the first sign should be that someone wants to buy. You need to find a concept which is sellable. Once again, the example about the airlines. If you're trying to sell something that no one wants, you are out of business. First, we try to find a way, what's the different way of selling the airline pilot training. Once we found the way, there was a lot of hard work, but it paid off. It was worth finding out the answers to all the technical questions, because we knew all the time that if we can do this, then there will be reward in the end. The fifth thing, framing, that we already discussed. It was about the example of selling cars. Make your packages, that's your frame. You have the cheap one and you have the expensive one. You want the customer go in the middle. You want them to think about, in your terms, not trying to find a comparison from someplace else. And that's the point of packaging, creating the options yourself. And that's the whole thing about creating a good sales pitch. We always say that you should listen to your customer. I do agree to a certain point. But there is always a point in your sales pitch when you should turn the table over and start selling your customer how things are done. There is a better way, and you represent the better way. There is a better option, and there is a better comparison. The thing might be that you are not talking about, or you shouldn't in any case be talking about the price of your service. You should always be talking about the money that you are going to bring to your customer. In my 5,000 euro example, I was telling you how I'm going to make you 5,000 euros profit. If you believe that, good, then I have made my sales. You should focus on explaining how you're going to make the extra money to your customer, not explaining why your service or product costs whatever it costs. Frame the value and make a note of this. It's value, not price. This is very simple fact that whenever we do something new, we do those sort of calculations I was talking about in the airline companies and so on. We need someone who understands what the problem is, and sometimes it needs people who understand what the little bit technical solution is. So it's not going to work so that you just go to the airline company and say that we're going to save 1% of your operational cost. It needs a salesman who knows how that 1% is done. Someone who knows the Excel sheet, who knows the numbers, who knows how people actually fly the planes. In this example where we did it, it was the head of the training operations, who's an old fighter pilot himself. He started flying around, visiting all these airline companies, finding out what they were saying, what were the things that they believed and what were the things they didn't believe. And once they had done that 50 times, they knew that, okay, now we know how it can be sold and what are the arguments that always catch the customers, not carding themselves. You always find the right question in the end that the customer can't answer anymore. Why are you wasting €500,000 just, watching your pilots taxi the plane to the airfield? That's stupid. You can take the €500,000 away. So you need someone who can do it. So this is the training you need to do. For example, this very, very, very old example regarding the Marx Brothers when they made their movies. The thing was, when they were trying to find a good joke, they just didn't make a movie and try it out that way. They went to the theater and they tried different kind of jokes. And there is a good sign that the joke works. It's when the audience is laughing. So whenever the audience was laughing, they just kept repeating the joke and kind of making a little bit better and better and better until they thought that now it's good, let's put it into a movie. This is what sales is about. You need to practice many times. You need to know the punchlines. You need to know the story where the €500,000 you are trying to sell. It's not going to work out that you write your sales pitch, you come to me and you tell what you want. And I always say that it's crap just because you haven't practiced 100 times. So you need to believe in the power of the practice, and you need to build your sales so that you have the chance to practice. Do it 100 times, then you know how it works. I've done my sales pitch probably at least 1,000 times. I know pretty well already what works, what are the things that my customers really, what wakes them up and how to get their attention. But I know it sounds horrible, but 1,000 times.
Can we hear your sales pitch?
Yeah, tomorrow you can if you wish. Unfortunately today we don't have time for it. Okay, few more things. You need a format. Like I said, you need to keep repeating your sales. This is another thing about the service. If you do it once, like the example I had in the beginning, I will solve any problem for any customer, blah, blah, blah. It means that it kind of sounds that every time you do something, you start from the scratch. And that's unbelievably expensive and it's not very efficient. So always when you're talking about the service, make a point how your format is going to make things faster for the customer. Try to focus on what you are the best in doing and saying that how you could differentiate yourself just by your service format, by just not being the best, but also being the fastest, most cost effective, and so on. We one day when we started selling our service, we just decided that we need to be the fastest in this country. It was really easy. We just asked the customers, what do you think is fast? And they said, like, it was actually the first customer that said it. We had planned for a project for 9 months. That's a good length for a productization project, we thought. But the first customer said that 5 days is okay. If you can do it in 5 days, we will buy it. And we are like, no, you cannot, push it together 9 months to 5 days. And the customer said that, well, it's your problem. If you can do it, I'll buy it. So once we figured out how to put it all together in 5 days, we realized that this is the competitive advantage we have, and this is the kind of competitive advantage we can offer our customers doing something really quickly. It means that when we do a project, every minute of the project during those 5 days is scheduled. There is a plan. It's called a format. You go to McDonald's, you see one kind of service format, but that's what you should be doing, being the quickest, fastest, not just the smartest. Okay. When I'm saying something like this, that find a thing that has a competitive edge. So we are in a sort of innovation discussion, right? That okay, it's so easy to say that make a good innovation and it works. But actually, what I'm saying here is that no matter what your innovation is, don't make it easy to copy. Once again, the airline example. We could have said that we have high quality pilot training. We have the best organization to do it here in Finland. We have lots of snow and so on, so it's really hard to fly here, blah, blah, blah. Send your pilots here and you'll get the best result. But that, like I said, wouldn't have been very differentiating. So we decided on something else, which was really hard. Finding the numbers for all the pushing of the brake pedals and so on. Everybody kept saying that it can't be done, or if it can't be done, it will be really hard and it will take years to build up such database. And we said, so what? What if you can do it? Then you should do it, because then when you have the database with all the numbers, you will have what we call competitive edge. And this is exactly what happened. You can't copy anything like this. You need to walk through the same pains of trying to do it. It will take years at least before you can build up something like that. It can't be copied like that. If we make some nice marketing talk and put it down on a brochure and paste it on the website, it'll be, 5 minutes later on all your competitors' pages. No, not worth it. We have tried that already. And like I said, the key here is to ask the what-if question. What would make your business different? Very simple example, once again, from the 90s. And this comes from Amazon, where Jeff Bezos asked his, I'm not sure if it was board of directors, I think it was board of directors. What would happen, he asked them, if we could deliver our product in 60 seconds from the very first moment that our customers first thought about our service. And the directors were like, did we understand correct? We are delivering books to the other side of the world. Now you're talking about 60 seconds. And this just doesn't make any sense. And they said, Jeff, let's please focus on the problems we have right now. We have logistics issues and so on. So you can have your daydreams, but don't do it here. But Jeff Bezos said that, just answer me. What would happen if we could do that? And all the directors said, like, well, okay, let's say our competitors would all go bankrupt. Fine. So now we know what happened later on. Amazon started developing such a device. They actually had it working. They patented things like one click on a website. I don't know how they can do that, but they actually did. And so on. They came up with the Kindle device. And now, as we know, it's possible for you to get the service delivered in 60 seconds from the very first moment when you first thought about it. So now the question is, what happened to Amazon's competitors? Borders went bankrupt 2011. I think it was 2013 when Barnes & Noble said that they're out of the book business competition in the same manner that Amazon was doing it. We'll just focus on something else. And they have more than 50% of the American book market and so on. Now they're opening up their bookstores all over the US. But the point was here, if you can find the question where the answer could be that if I did this, I would be the sole winner of the game, then there is only another question, should I do it or not? Amazon did it and they succeeded. There are lots of things where they failed. Those are the stories we don't see in this example, but they failed a lot. But please ask this question first, and if you have the answer, then you know what you should be selling. Once again, the airline example. We were selling the 1% operative savings. You can't get it right away from the very first day, but if you train your pilots, it will work. And then the last thing, always go for the references, find the first customers, and prove that what you are saying is right. Don't just be happy with the sales pitch, no matter how good it is. Always show the results, and this should be the first thing you do. I just went to an insurance company that has been in business for like, I don't know, probably hundreds of years, feels like it. And there was like 15 specialists around, and I asked them like, give me 3 stories, very good stories from your customers where you succeeded. And I waited for like, I don't know, 15 minutes, and I just kept asking it, and I got nothing, zero, nothing. The thing wasn't that they didn't have any good customer stories, but they never wrote it down. They couldn't tell what the story was, so they couldn't use it. And I just kept asking, like, why don't you do it? And why don't you write it down? Because that's the most valuable asset you have, is the happy customers where you can prove that you have made them money. Don't do the same mistake. Start with the pilot project and tell the customer, we are going to make this work, and when this works, you're going to be our reference. And that's the end of it. One short example, I'll be finishing shortly. I was talking about the Fortum and power plants and how the service for the power plants was designed. And like I said in the beginning, the specialists were saying that, oh, it can't be done in 1 week. Okay, we did the sales pitch. We went to the Fortum specialists and we gave them a sales pitch and asked like, what do you think? And they said, well, we never thought of it that way, but how do we know it works? And we said, we have no idea if it works. We'll just go out and see if it works. So what we did next, there was we took a group of 30 power plant owners and directors around Northern Europe, and the first test was to call them. We just had the sales pitch. We asked them like, how does it sound if we guarantee that there will be more uptime for your power plant? We will actually add 1 day a year more operational time, which is worth hundreds of thousands of euros. Compared, by the way, with the old service price, we were talking about something like 15,000 euros a year or something like really ridiculous compared to the benefit of what you can get if you can actually make the plant's operational economy improve. Okay, so what happened? 30 directors said that, hey, this sounds good, come here, I want to hear more. Oh, that's a good sign. Okay, what happens next? Let's take those power plants that we know that are not working like in the most efficient manner, and let's start with them. The first was the city of Göteborg in Sweden, and when the salespeople went there, they immediately got the job. the customer said that, okay, we never seen anything like this before. No one has guaranteed us these hundreds of thousands of euros. It seems you have a good track record, so there is no reason why we shouldn't try it. So they did. It was the first project with the city of Göteborg, and obviously there were lots of things that were not working. But after that project and a couple other pilots, the things were working, and all the units inside Fortum knew what they should be doing together. And now the service is being sold globally, and it still has the same sales pitch that we did in the beginning. It's easy to fix the operational issues once you know what your customers wants to buy. Why not to do it that way? That's my question. So, hopefully your new way of thinking is here. You will be talking about the money, you will be talking about the speed. Why am I always saying the speed is a good thing? Well, you figure it out. Do you want to fly to New York with a faster plane or a slower plane? Do you want your business to grow up quickly or slowly? There might be some services where slow is better than fast, but most often, if you face a salesman who says that, okay, now I've heard you, I have to go home, I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks and maybe send you an offer, then we can see if there is some kind of a kickoff and we can start scheduling the project, and it's 3 months in the future when we can start doing something. Why don't you say that, okay, I see what your problem is and we are good in solving those kinds of problems, here's your price, and we can start tomorrow. What's the difference? Your difference is that your business will grow a lot faster. It's easy to sell. What is the benefit for the customer? They will know immediately what the price is. You have given them comparison. They can make the decision right away. There is the first step with the low risk and so on. You make the buying easy and you show the benefit and you give the measuring point for your customer. It's really easy to sell them that we will make this much money, then measure it. If it's like you said, you have a good reference, you can tell everyone else that it works. This is what you should be doing. It's your attitude that makes the difference. What are the problems you are going to solve? You either solve them or you don't. And if you solve them, then there is no question why you shouldn't be giving any guarantees. Of course you do. You just tell that if the customer wants something else, then you don't give the guarantee. It's not for everything, but it's for solving the certain problem with your format and method of doing. You can do it quickly, and there are rules for the customer how they should commit, and if that works so, then you will give your guarantee. So it's not just you giving the guarantees, but it's also the customer. You will be telling them that there are rules of engagement you need to do, as I'm saying as well, otherwise we won't be getting there. So you need to be tough as well in that urgency, decisiveness, things like that. Fine. And as a summary, that's what I'm saying. There is the problem you want to find, there is the problem you want to solve. Be really precise about what the problem is. Make sure your customer understands the problem and keeps repeating it. If the customer says, I have an urgent problem and I understand what the value of the solution is, why wouldn't they buy? That's my question. Start with that. Thank you. That's what I had to say today.
Very good. Thank you, Antti, for the excellent presentation. We have time for questions. If you have some questions from the audience here now, please go ahead. Use the microphone.
He looks at me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually a bit stuck on your third and fourth point. And in your presentation, quite many times you mentioned outrageous promise and dollarize benefits. Those are the two words. I mean, I'm not a business background guy. I'm mostly a tech background. But a few mentors told me, and I'm kind of, it's contradicting in my head. They said, like, if your customer or if you promise too much and you cannot deliver, then you actually squash the whole thing out. So when you're starting a service, you, as you said, outrageous promises and stuff like that you can deliver. So I'm going to tell you that I'm going to do this, that. And when it's time to deliver, if I cannot, I kind of squash the whole thing out immediately. So how does that fit in that picture?
Okay, there are, obviously, when you give the promise first time, there is no way of knowing if you can deliver that. So what you need to do, you need to take a little bit risk. If you make sure that you can deliver everything as you promised, then probably it's going to take too long. You are playing too much safe. So there needs to be a certain possibility that you fail. And that's what you need to tell your customer. This is the first time you're doing it, and there is the possibility of failing. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because when you sell the idea and when you sell the guarantee to the customer, why is the customer actually buying? They're buying because you're making a good promise, and the customer is basically saying that if you can actually succeed in that amount of time, then this will be a good service. If you fail, I don't think the other customers will be happy after that, so you don't have business anyway. And if you succeed, if it's a little bit, difficult, the project, you will play a little bit safety, and you have told your customer that, this is the first time I'm doing this. And I can tell you that I've done this a lot of times. And sometimes it doesn't work for the very reason that the thing we were doing in the first place wasn't so good. So if you are you're a specialist, you make a, decent promise, not too much. It doesn't have to be so that you have to, stay up all night for the next 8 months, but a little bit like that. You need to push it a little bit, make it feel like we are doing something special, some extra resources we are trying. The customer doesn't care if you are late a little bit, but the customer knows if you had done the right thing, if you are actually proceeding in the process. And if you are getting a lot of late and your promise is way gone, so it's not good service then anyway. So you need to be careful with the idea that what I'm telling you in the Amazon example, for example, that they kind of knew beforehand that if we can do this, it's a good business. So then you have something to reach for. But too often we go to the customer and we say that I'm uncertain, I don't want to promise you anything because I haven't done this before, or if I have, I don't know what your parameters for this kind of project are, so I don't really know anything about your environment, so that's why I cannot promise you anything. So let's say that it's going to take 12 months. That's exactly the mistake I made when I told you that we went to the customer and we said that it takes 9 months to deliver this productization project. And they said, fine, but I want it in 1 week. And you see the difference here. So we could have gone out and said that, oh, that's outrageous. We're never going to do it in 1 week. But we said that, well, what do we have to lose? If we try and it works, that could be good. If we don't succeed, then we know that it can't be done in 1 week. So what happened? It was like the worst week of my life kind of project. But after that, we kind of figured out that, okay, there are lots of things we can do, make it better, we need some subcontractors and so on. So we actually got it working pretty quickly. And the thing was, we were all the time thinking that if we can make it work, it'll sell a lot. So it did. So that's the first question. What is the thing that your customer will pay for? It's not what you can do or can't do. That's not interesting. Interesting is what I'm willing to pay you for. Do you see the difference here? But that's not really what I'm saying, that you should just promise so much to the customer that you get the sales. But that's
I got the meaning, but the thing was like the word outrageous. That word gave a different understanding when you say that word. It's a very strong word.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
but
that's what I meant.
But
it was kind of extreme word.
But once again, when we were able to deliver the project in 1 week instead of 9 months, it was outrageous. Our customers kept saying that it's not possible. How you need to prove that you can do it. And nowadays, when you go and sell it, we say that we have done it over 200 times in schedule. So that's our proof that we can do it in 1 week. Then they say, okay, who you did it for? Then we show the list, and they say, okay, well, if you can do it for them, maybe you can do it for us. They don't know if we can do it or not, but they trust the idea that we have done it many times. Yeah, go ahead.
We have just 1 minute. I'll give you the microphone.
Okay, thanks. My name is Markku, and coming from Kleenu company, and we have a problem of value selling. Well, not yet problem maybe, but upcoming problem I would say, because our products is such that it's really hard to convince people that there's a clear benefit from our product, and we know there is, but people don't understand the service they are getting because it's free at the moment. And our challenge is that actually it's not the end customer who uses the product, it's the one who provides the service. And there we should have some kind of way of calculating the value, why this is better than the others are. So where to start, how to start, and is it okay to go with the quite rough estimation, not being very precise with your calculations?
Yeah, absolutely. You should start with the calculation, and always the first calculation, it can't be really good because you have only done it once and you don't really know if it works. And that should not matter, but what matters is that do you know what you should be calculating? Like in the airline example, when we knew very well that what are the things that are bringing the cost to the operational side of the airline company, then the only question was that if we can measure it and use it for calculation, then we will solve the problem. So we sort of knew how the mechanism works, where the money comes from and where it goes to. And the first calculations, to be honest, they were really bad, and they were easy to challenge, and customers said that, oh, that's not the case, in our case it works like this, and blah blah blah. But it didn't matter because they understood that what we were talking about was the right subject. Then we can, take the discussion further and start asking the customer, like, what are your numbers? If you know it better, then tell us. Let's refine this. And once they get into talking about your calculation model, they'll suddenly notice that, hey, we are in the money discussion. You're actually bringing some value just by discussing it. And at the same time, you will get all the information from your customer, how they are calculating it. So next time, it will be better. I totally admit that it's one of the most difficult cases where the service has been free before. And in most cases, it seems that somehow customers have been able to get the service from someplace else. And there, the only thing I think is possible that you somehow need to make the two service consummation situation different. How would I say? Like if you compare apples, if the customer feels like you are talking about the same service which was free before and now you're offering it for a price, then you have failed. You need to do something so that it looks a little bit different. There needs to be, for example, the measurement and calculation itself can be a value. You can make it tangible, and you can show it in your customer's business that where the money is and where it goes to, even though the service would be the same. Sometimes, well, every one of you know the Uber model. It's a business model only in a sense that it's still the same car the drivers are driving, right? We're not changing that very much. It's about how the car is owned, who is driving it, how we are dispatching, and so on. So the value is in there, but it's still the same car with 4 wheels and so on. But you need to change the rules somehow. If it's just the same with the price, I know it's really hard to sell.
Okay, I think we don't have any more questions. So, hey, thank you for the questions. Thank you for the great presentation. And thank you also for our audience in Riga and Tallinn. See you next week.
Thank you. And whoever of you is here today, we can obviously continue discussion from there, and whatever you can come up with, questions and stories and so on, let's discuss tomorrow, and you can use your own examples of your own business and so on, so we can have some more detailed maybe calculations, examples and so on. So be prepared tomorrow. We'll see you then.